always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, Prahlad Maharaj is responding to the question asked of him by his father, Hiranyakashipu, what's the best thing that you've learned in school? And he has responded with Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, etc. And Srila Prabhupada in his purport is analyzing each individual item of the 9 processes of devotional service. And we are on, we're beginning with number 3, Smaranam. This is Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 5, text 23 and 24, purport. Beginning from 3, Smaranam. After one regularly performs the processes of hearing and chanting, and after the core of one's heart is cleansed, Smaranam, remembering, is recommended. In Srimad Bhagavatam 2.111, Shukadeva Goswami tells King Parikshit, Etan nirvidyamananam ichitam akoto bayam yoginam nipinirnitam harer namanu kirtanam. O King, kirtanam harinanam kirtanam. O King, for great yogis who have completely renounced all material connections, for those who desire all material enjoyment, and for those who are self-satisfied by dint of transcendental knowledge, constant chanting of the holy name of the Lord is recommended. According to different relationships with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there are varieties of Namanukirtanam, chanting of the holy name. And thus, according to different relationships and mellows, there are 5 kinds of remembering. These are as follows. A. Conducting research into the worship of a particular form of the Lord. B. Concentrating the mind on one subject and withdrawing the mind's activities of thinking, feeling, and willing from all other subjects. C. Concentrating upon a particular form of the Lord. This is called meditation. D. Concentrating one's mind continuously on the form of the Lord. This is called Dhruvanushmriti, or perfect meditation. And E. Awakening a likening for concentration upon a particular form. This is called samadhi, or trance. Mental concentration upon particular pastimes of the Lord in particular circumstances is also called remembrance. Therefore, samadhi, trance, can be possible in 5 different ways in terms of one's relationship. Specifically, the trance of devotees on the stage of neutrality is called mental concentration. 4. Padasevanam. According to one's taste and strength, hearing, chanting, and remembrance may be followed by padasevanam. One obtains the perfection of remembering when one constantly thinks of the lotus feet of the Lord. Being intensely attached to thinking of the Lord's lotus feet is called padasevanam. Please. Did I say it right? I read it right, but it was written wrong. I will make a note. You can't change it though. Not allowed. That was a good catch. Yeah, and we'll also send a little. We'll give Dravid a little plug also. Oh, by the way, guess who found that one? I thought it when I read it too. It didn't sound right, actually. I mean, when you read out loud like this, you catch everything. That's why the last stage of the books that I've done with Chaitanya Maharaj is always reading out loud with the author and the editors. Okay. 4. Padasevanam. According to one's taste and strength, hearing and chanting and remembrance may be followed by padasevanam. One obtains the perfection of remembering when one constantly thinks of the lotus feet of the Lord. Being intensely attached to thinking of the Lord's lotus feet is called padasevanam. When one is particularly adherent to the process of padasevanam, this process gradually includes other processes, such as seeing the form of the Lord, touching the form of the Lord, circumambulating the form or temple of the Lord, visiting such places as Jagannath Puri, Dwarka, and Mathura to see the Lord's form, and bathing in the Ganges or Yamuna. Bathing in the Ganges and serving a pure Vaishnava are also known as Tadiya Upasanam. This is also Padasevanam. The word Tadiya means in relationship with the Lord. Service to the Vaishnava, Tulsi, Ganges, and Yamuna are included in Padasevanam. All these processes of Padasevanam help one advance in spiritual life very quickly. 5. Archanam. After Padasevanam comes the process of Archanam, worship of the deity. If one is interested in the process of Archanam, one must positively take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master and learn the process from him. There are many books for Archana, especially Narada Pancharatra. In this age, the Pancharatra system is particularly recommended for Archana, deity worship. There are two systems of Archana, the Bhagavata system and Pancharatrika system. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, there is no recommendation of Pancharatrika worship because in this Kali Yuga, even without deity worship, everything can be perfectly performed simply through hearing, chanting, remembering, and worship of the lotus feet of the Lord. Rupa Goswami states, Shri Vishnu Shavane Parikshik Abhavad Vaisesika Kirtane Pralada Smirane Tadangri Bhajane Lakshmi Pritu Pujane Akruras Twabhivandane Kapipati Dasyeta Sakir Juna Sarvasvat Madivedane Balirabhut Krishna Ptire Shampadam Sarvasmatma Nivedane Krishna Prirde Shampadam. Parikshit Maharaj attained salvation simply by hearing, and Shukadeva Goswami attained salvation simply by chanting. Prahlad Maharaj attained salvation by remembering the Lord. The goddess of fortune, Lakshmi Devi, attained perfection by worshipping the Lord's lotus feet. Prithu Maharaj attained salvation by worshipping the deity of the Lord. Akrura attained salvation by offering prayers. Hanuman by rendering service. Arjuna by establishing friendship with the Lord. And Bali Maharaj by offering everything to the service of the Lord. All these great devotees served the Lord according to a particular process, but every one of them attained salvation and became eligible to return home back to Godhead. This is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. It is therefore recommended that initiated devotees follow the principles of Narada Pancharatra by worshipping the deity in the temple, especially for householder devotees who are opulent in material possessions. The path of deity worship is strongly recommended. An opulent householder devotee who does not engage his hard-earned money in the service of the Lord is called a miser. One should not engage paid brahmanas. One should not engage paid brahmanas to worship the deity. If one does not personally worship the deity, but engages paid servants instead, he is considered lazy, and his worship of the deity is called artificial. An opulent householder can collect luxurious paraphernalia for deity worship, and consequently, for householder devotees, the worship of the deity is compulsory. In our Krishna consciousness movement, there are brahmacharis for grihastas, vanaprasthas, and sannyasis, but the deity worship in the temple should be performed especially by the householders. The brahmacharis can go with the sannyasis to preach, and the vanaprasthas should prepare themselves for the next status of renounced life, sannyas. Grihastha devotees, however, are generally engaged in material activities, and therefore, if they do not take to deity worship, their falling down is positively assured. Take note, please. Deity worship means following the rules and regulations precisely. That will keep one steady in devotional service. Generally, householders have children, and then the wives of the householders should be engaged in caring for the children, just as women acting as teachers care for the children in the nursery school. Grihastha devotees must adopt the archana vidi, or deity worship, according to the suitable arrangements and directions given by the spiritual master. Regarding those unable to take to the deity worship in the temple, there is the following statement in the Agni Purana. Any householder devotee circumstantially unable to worship the deity must at least see the deity worship, and in this way he may achieve success also. The special purpose of deity worship is to keep oneself always pure and clean. Grihastha devotees should be actual examples of cleanliness. Deity worship should be continued along with hearing and chanting. Therefore, every mantra is preceded by the word namaha. In all the mantras, there are specific potencies of which the Grihastha devotees must take advantage. There are many mantras preceded by the word namaha, but if one chants the holy name of the Lord, he receives the result of chanting namaha many times. By chanting the holy name of the Lord, one can reach the platform of love of Godhead. One might ask, then what is the necessity of being initiated? The answer is that even though the chanting of the holy name is sufficient to enable one to progress in spiritual life to the standard of love of Godhead, one is nonetheless susceptible to contamination because of possessing a material body. Consequently, special stress is given to the archana vidi. One should therefore regularly take advantage of both the Bhagavata process and the Pancharatriki process.
Deity worship has two divisions, namely pure and mixed with fruit of activities. For one who is steady, deity worship is compulsory. Observing the various types of festivals such as Sri Janmashtami, Ram Navami, and Nrsimha Chaturdashi is also included in the process of deity worship. In other words, it is compulsory for householder devotees to observe these festivals. Now let us discuss the offenses in deity worship. The following are offenses. A. To enter the temple with shoes or being carried on a palanquin. B. Not to observe the prescribed festivals. C. To avoid offering obeisances in front of the deity. D. To offer prayers in an unclean state, not having washed one's hands after eating. E. To offer obeisances with one hand. F. To circumambulate directly in front of the deity. G. To spread one's legs before the deity. H. To sit before the deity while holding one's ankles with one's hands. I. To lie down before the deity. J. To eat before the deity. K. To speak lies before the deity. L. To address somebody loudly before the deity. M. To talk nonsense before the deity. N. To cry before the deity. O. To argue before the deity. P. To chastise someone before the deity. Q. To show someone favor before the deity. R. To use harsh words before the deity. S. To wear a woolen blanket before the deity. T. To blaspheme someone before the deity. U. To worship someone else before the deity. V. To use vulgar language before the deity. W. To pass air before the deity. X. To avoid very opulent worship of the deity, even though one is able to perform it. Y. To eat something not offered to the deity. Z. To avoid offering fresh fruits to the deity according to the season. AA. To offer food to the deity which has already been used or from which has first been given. To offer food to the deity which has already been used or from which has first been given to others. In other words, that seems a little funny, huh? To offer food to the deity which has already been used or from which. Oh, you may. Oh, good. It's already been done. Okay, I'll read it from yours. To offer food to the deity which has already been used, or a portion of which has first been given to others. In other words, food should not be distributed to anyone else until it has been offered to the deity. BB. To sit with one's back toward the deity. CC. To offer obeisances to someone else in front of the deity. DD. Not to chant proper prayers when offering obeisances to the spiritual master. EE. To praise oneself before the deity. And FF. To blaspheme the demigods. In the worship of the deity, these 32 offenses should be avoided. In the Varaha Purana, the following offenses are mentioned. A. To eat in the house of a rich man. B. To enter the deity's room in the dark. C. To worship the deity without following the regulative principles. D. To enter the temple without vibrating any sound. E. To collect food that has been seen by a dog. F. To break silence while offering worship to the deity. G. To go to the toilet during the time of worshiping the deity. H. To offer incense without offering flowers. I. To worship the deity with forbidden flowers. J. To begin worship without having washed one's teeth. K. To begin worship after sex. L. To touch a lamp, dead body, or a woman during her menstrual period, or to put on red or bluish clothing, unwashed clothing, the clothing of others, or soiled clothing. Other offenses are to worship the deity after seeing a dead body, to pass air before the deity, to show anger before the deity, and to worship the deity just after returning from a crematorium. After eating, one should not worship the deity until one has digested his food, nor should one touch the deity or engage in any deity worship after eating safflower oil or hing. These are also offenses. In other places, the following offenses are listed. A. To be against the scriptural injunctions of the Vedic literatures, or to disrespect within one's heart the Srimad Bhagavatam while externally falsely accepting its principles. B. To introduce differing shastras. C. To chew pan and betel nut before the deity. D. To keep flowers for worship on the leaf of a castor oil plant. E. To worship the deity in the afternoon. F. To sit on the altar or to sit on the floor to worship the deity without a seat. G. To touch the deity with the left hand while bathing the deity. H. To worship the deity with a stale or used flower. I. To spit while worshiping the deity. J. To advertise one's glory while worshiping the deity. K. To apply tilak to one's forehead in a curved way. L. To enter the temple without having washed one's feet. M. To offer the deity food cooked by an uninitiated person. N. To worship the deity and offer bhoga to the deity within the vision of an uninitiated person or non-Vaishnava. O. To offer worship to the deity without worshipping Vaikuntha deities like Ganesh. P. To worship the deity while perspiring. Q. To refuse flowers offered to the deity. R. To take a vow or oath in the holy name of the Lord. If one commits any of the above offenses, one must read at least one chapter of Bhagavad Gita. This is confirmed in the Skanda Purana, Avantikanda. Similarly, there is another injunction stating that one who reads the 1,000 names of Vishnu can be released from all offenses. In the same Skanda Purana, Reva Kanda, it is said that one who recites prayers to Tulsi or sows a Tulsi seed is also freed from all offenses. Similarly, one who worships the Shalagram Shila can also be relieved of offenses. In the Brahmanda Purana, it is said that one who worships Lord Vishnu, whose 4 hands bear a conch shell, disc, lotus flower, and club, can be relieved from the above offenses. In the Adi Varaha Purana, it is said that a worshipper who has committed offenses may fast for 1 day at the holy place known as Shaukarava, and then bathe in the Ganges. Yes, sir. Microphone. Just now coming.
Similarly, one who worships the Shalagram Shila can also be relieved of offenses. I am under the understanding that you get full reaction for offenses in worshipping Shalagram Shila.
Incorrect understanding. Actually, I talked to Krishna Kshetra Maharaj. I talked to Krishna Kshetra Maharaj many years ago when he was living in near the Radharaman temple. He was doing his thesis paper on Archan, and I interviewed him for a couple hours, and we talked a lot about Archan, and one of the things I asked him was about Shalagram worship. And he said, actually, it's very misunderstood. And he said that Shalagram is the most malleable form, deity form of the Lord, because the worship, the mood of worship the devotee has, and he'll adapt himself to it, whatever it may be. And also, Prabhupada and he said the same thing as is mentioned here. He's a mercy form of the Lord. Prabhupada mentions this in a couple places in his books, that he's the most merciful form of the Lord because he avails himself. He can fit right in your hand. He'll travel with you wherever you want to go. You can worship him as the deity, whatever deity form you have in mind. He'll adapt himself to that. And the idea that your house will burn down if you you look at Shalagram the wrong way or something like that is not substantiated. Isn't substantiated.
Isn't substantiated.
It hasn't been substantiated. It's insubstantiated.
So exactly what it means is that one who worships Shalagram can also be relieved of offenses.
If you worship the Shalagram Shila, then you'll be relieved of offenses in worshiping the deity. Just as is mentioned here, when you worship the Lord in the form of Narayan, you get free from offenses. Or you can chant the whole Vishnu Sahasranam every day. Or you can chant 1 chapter of Bhagavad Gita every day. Or you can do all 4 of them. It takes only about 40 minutes. Go ahead.
I think maybe I'm not the only one. There's a lot of restraining myself from asking a lot of questions about all those different offenses, but just at least one I'd like to ask is no, not the red and blue one. I've heard. I mean, that one I've talked about before, but I'd like to talk. What's that? No, not the blanket one. Worshipping the Lord in the afternoon. How is that an offense?
It's your morning puja, that's all it means.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you're lazy and you don't do your morning puja. Lazy and you don't do your morning puja, so he's like, I'll worship him later in the afternoon.
Also,
So-
the Lord takes a nap in the afternoon. 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock until afternoon means 1 o'clock until yeah. In the process of worshiping the deity, It is sometimes enjoined that one worship the deity within the mind. In the Padma Purana, Uttarakhanda, it is said, all persons can generally worship within the mind. The Gautamiya Tantra states, for a sannyasi who has no home, worship of the deity within the mind is recommended. In the Narada Pancharatra, it is stated by Lord Narayana that worship of the deity within the mind is called Manasa Puja. One can become free from the four miseries by this method. Sometimes worship from the mind can be independently executed. According to the instruction of Avihotra Muni, one of the Navayogendras, as mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam, one may worship the deity by chanting all the mantras. 8 kinds of deities are mentioned in the Shastra, and the mental deity is one of them. In this regard, the following description is given in the Brahma Vaivarta Purana. In the city of Pratishthanapura, long ago, there resided a Brahmana who was poverty-stricken, but innocent and not dissatisfied. One day he heard a discourse in an assembly of Brahmanas concerning how to worship the deity in the temple. In that meeting he also heard that the deity may be worshipped within the mind. After this incident, the Brahmana, having bathed in the Godavari river, began mentally worshipping the deity. He would wash the temple within his mind, and then in his imagination he would bring water from all the sacred rivers in golden and silver water pots. He collected all kinds of valuable paraphernalia for worship, and he worshipped the deity very gorgeously, beginning from bathing the deity and ending with offering arati. Thus he felt great happiness. After many years it passed in this way. One day within his mind he cooked nice sweet rice with ghee to worship the deity. He placed the sweet rice on a golden dish and offered it to Lord Krishna. But he felt that the sweet rice was very hot, and therefore he touched it with his finger. He immediately felt that his finger had been burned by the hot sweet rice, and thus he began to lament. While the Brahmana was in pain, Lord Vishnu in Vaikuntha began smiling, and the goddess of fortune inquired from the Lord why he was smiling. Lord Vishnu then ordered his associates to bring the Brahmana to Vaikuntha. Thus the Brahmana attained the liberation of Samipya, the facility of living near the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Number 6, Vandanam. Although prayers are a part of deity worship, they may be considered separately, like the other items, such as hearing and chanting, and therefore separate statements are given herewith. The Lord has unlimited transcendental qualities and opulences, and one who feels influenced by the Lord's qualities in various activities offers prayers to the Lord. In this way he becomes successful. In this connection, the following are some of the offenses to be avoided. To offer obeisances on one hand. B. To offer obeisances with one's body covered. C. To show one's back to the deity. D. To offer obeisances on the left side of the deity. E. To offer obeisances very near the deity. 7. Dasyam. There is the following statement in regard to assisting the Lord as a servant. After many, many thousands of births, when one comes to the understanding that he is an eternal servant of Krishna, one can deliver others from this universe. If one simply continues to think that he is an eternal servant of Krishna, even without performing any other process of devotional service, he can attain full success. For simply by this feeling, one can perform all 9 processes of devotional service.
Prabhu had a comment. He said, Haribol. 8. Sakyam. In regard to worshipping the Lord as a friend, the Agastya Samhita, the what? States that a devotee engaged in performing devotional service by Shravanam and Kirtanam sometimes wants to see the Lord personally, and for this purpose he resides in the temple. Elsewhere there is this statement, O my Lord, Supreme Personality, an eternal friend. Although you are full of bliss and knowledge, you have become the friend of the residents of Vrindavan. How fortunate are these devotees? In this statement, the word friend is specially used to indicate intense love. Friendship, therefore, is better than servitude. In the stage above Dasya Ras, the devotee accepts the Supreme Personality of Godhead as a friend. This is not at all astonishing, for when a devotee is pure in heart, the opulence of his worship of the deity diminishes as spontaneous love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead is manifested. In this regard, Sridhar Swami mentions Sridhama Vipra, who it's Sridhama here, but now it's been properly corrected as Sudama Vipra, who expressed to himself his feelings of obligation, thinking, life after life, may I be connected with Krishna in this friendly attitude. 9. Atma Nevadanam. The word Atma Nevadanam refers to the stage at which one who has no motive other than to serve the Lord surrenders everything to the Lord and performs his activities only to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such a devotee is like a cow that is cared for by its master. When cared for by its master, a cow is not in anxiety over its maintenance. Such a cow is always devoted to its master, and it never acts independently, but only for the master's benefit. Some devotees, therefore, consider dedication of the body to the Lord to be Atma Nevedana. And as stated in the book known as Bhakti Viveka, sometimes dedication of the soul to the Lord is called Atma Nevedana. The best examples of Atma Nevedana are found in Bali Maharaj and Ambarish Maharaj. Atma Nevedana is also sometimes found in the behavior of Rukmini Devi at Dwarka. 25. After hearing these words of devotional service from the mouth of his son Prahlad, Hiranyakashipu was extremely angry. His lips trembling, he spoke as follows to Shanda, the son of his guru, Shukracharya.
26. O unqualified, most heinous son of a Brahmana, you have disobeyed my order and taken shelter of the party of my enemies. You have taught this poor boy about devotional service. What is this nonsense? Purport. In this verse, the word asaram, meaning having no substance, is significant. For a demon, there is no substance in the process of devotional service. But to a devotee, devotional service is the only essential factor in life. Since Hiranyakashipu did not like devotional service, the essence of life, he chastised Prahlad Maharaj's teachers with harsh words. 27. In due course of time, various types of diseases are manifest in those who are sinful. Similarly, in this world, there are many deceptive friends in false garbs. But eventually, because of their false behavior, their actual enmity becomes manifest. Purport. Being anxious about the education of his boy Prahlad, Hiranyakashipu was very much dissatisfied. When Prahlad began teaching about devotional service, Hiranyakashipu immediately regarded the teachers as his enemies in the garb of friends. In this verse, the words Roga Patakinam Iva refer to disease, which is the most sinful and miserable of the conditions of material life, Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi. Disease is the symptom of the body of a sinful person. The Smriti Shastras say, Brahmahak Chayarogi Syat Surapang Shavanandakaha Swarnahari Tukanuki Dushjarma Guru Talbakaha. Murderers of Brahmanas are later afflicted by tuberculosis, drunkards become toothless, those who have stolen gold are afflicted by diseased nails. The sinful men who have sexual connections with the wife of a superior are afflicted by leprosy, and similar skin diseases. Text 28. The son of Shukracharya, Hiranyakashipu's spiritual master, said, O enemy of King Indra, O king, whatever your son Prahlad has said was not taught to him by me or anyone else. His spontaneous devotional service has naturally developed in him. Therefore, please give up your anger and do not unnecessarily accuse us. It is not good to insult a Brahmana in this way. 29. Sri Narada Muni continued, when Hiranyakashipu received this reply from the teacher, he again addressed his son Prahlad. Hiranyakashipu said, You rascal, most fallen of our family, if you have not received this education from your teachers, where have you gotten it? Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that devotional service is actually Bhadra Sati, not Abhadra Asati. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti explains that devotional service is actually Bhadrasati, not Abhadra Asati. In other words, knowledge of devotional service can be neither inauspicious nor contrary to etiquette. To learn devotional service is the duty of everyone. Therefore, the spontaneous education of Prahlad Maharaj is supported as auspicious and perfect. Text 30. Prahlad Maharaj replied, because of their uncontrolled senses. Sri Praraduvacha Matirna Krishne Paratak Svatova Mito Pipi Jiti Grihapratanam Adanta Gobir Tachitam Tamishram Punak Punas Charvita Charvananam Punak Punas Charvita Charvananam Punak Punas Charvita Charvananam. Prahlad Maharaj replied, because of their uncontrolled senses, persons too addicted to materialistic life progress toward hellish conditions and repeatedly chew that which has already been chewed. Progress, make progress. Did I say make progress? Oh, God. Prahlad Maharaj replied, because of their uncontrolled senses, persons too addicted to materialistic life make progress toward hellish conditions and repeatedly chew that which has already been chewed. Their inclinations toward Krishna are never aroused, either by the instructions of others, by their own efforts, or by a combination of both. Purport. In this verse, the words matir na Krishne refer to devotional service rendered to Krishna. So-called politicians, erudite scholars and philosophers who read Bhagavad Gita try to twist some meaning from it to suit their material purposes. But their misunderstandings of Krishna will not yield them any profit. Because such politicians, philosophers, and scholars are interested in using Bhagavad Gita as a vehicle for adjusting things materially, for them constant thought of Krishna or Krishna consciousness is impossible. Matir na Krishna. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Bhaktyamam abhijanati, only through devotional service can one understand Krishna as he is. The so-called politicians and scholars think of Krishna as fictitious. The politician says that his Krishna is different from the Krishna depicted in Bhagavad Gita. Even though he accepts Krishna and Rama as the supreme, he thinks of Rama and Krishna as impersonal because he has no idea of service to Krishna. Thus his only business is punat punas charvita charvananam, chewing the chewed again and again. The aim of such politicians and academic scholars is to enjoy this material world with their bodily senses. Therefore it is clearly stated here that those who are grihavrata, whose only aim is to live comfortably with the body in the material world, cannot understand Krishna. The two expressions, Grihavrata and Charvita Charvananam, indicate that a materialistic person tries to enjoy sense gratification in different bodily forms, life after life, but is still unsatisfied. In the name of personalism, thisism or thatism, such persons always remain attached to the materialistic way of life, as stated in Bhagavad Gita 2:44. Bhogaishvarya prasaktanam taya paritachetasam vyavisayat mika buddhi sabado navadiyate. In the mind, do navadiyate, samadao navadiyate. In the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence, and who are bewildered by such things, the resolute determination for devotional service to the Supreme Lord does not take place. Those who are attached to material enjoyment cannot be fixed in devotional service to the Lord. They cannot understand Bhagavan, Krishna, or his instruction, Bhagavad Gita. Adanta gobir bishatam tamishram. Their path actually leads towards hellish life. As confirmed by Rishabhadev, Mahat Sevam Dvara Mahavimuktes. One must try to understand Krishna by serving a devotee. The word Mahat refers to a devotee. Mahatmanastamam Partha Daivim Prakritim Ashritaha Bhajantyamnana Manaso Yatva Bhutadam Advayam Yatva Bhutadam Advayam Yatva Bhutadam Avyayam. O son of Pritha, those who are not deluded, the great souls, are under the protection of the divine nature. They are fully engaged in devotional service because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, original and inexhaustible. A Mahatma is one who is constantly engaged in devotional service 24 hours a day. As explained in the following verses, unless one adheres to such a great personality, one cannot understand Krishna. Hiranyakashipu wanted to know where Prahlad had gotten this Krishna consciousness. Who had taught him? Prahlad sarcastically replied, "My dear father, persons like you never understand Krishna." One can understand Krishna only by serving a Mahat, a great soul. Those who try to adjust material conditions are said to be chewing the chewed. No one has been able to adjust material conditions, but life after life, generation after generation, people try and repeatedly fail. Unless one is properly trained by a Mahat, a Mahatma, or unalloyed devotee of the Lord, there is no possibility of understanding Krishna as devotional service. I'd like to, I think the verse that we just did was an important one. Oh yeah, we did. We already did it. Okay. Sorry.
Nate vidu swarta katim hi vishnum darashayaye bahar artamanina andayatander upayina manas tepisha tantram urudam nibada tepisha tantram urudam nibada tepisha tantram urudam nibada. Persons who are strongly entrapped by the consciousness of enjoying material life and who have therefore accepted as their leader or guru a similarly blind man attached to external sense objects cannot understand that the goal of life is to return home back to Godhead and engage in the service of Lord Vishnu. As blind men guided by another blind man miss the right path and fall into a ditch, materially attached men led by another materially attached man are bound by the ropes of fruit of labor, which are made of very strong cords, and they continue again and again in materialistic life, suffering the threefold miseries. Purport: since there must always be a difference of opinion between demons and devotees, Hiranyakashipu, when criticized by his son Prahlad Maharaj, should not have been surprised that Prahlad Maharaj differed from his way of life. Nonetheless, Hiranyakashipu was extremely angry and wanted to rebuke his son for deriding his teacher or spiritual master who had been born in the Brahmana family of the great Acharya, Shukracharya. The word Shukra means semen, and Acharya refers to a teacher or guru. Hereditary gurus or spiritual masters have been accepted everywhere since time immemorial, but Prahlad Maharaj declined to accept such a seminal guru or take instruction from him. An actual guru is Kshotriya, one who has heard or received perfect knowledge through parampara, the disciplic succession. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj did not recognize a seminal spiritual master. Such spiritual masters are not at all interested in Vishnu. Indeed, they are hopeful of material success. Bahir artamanina. The word bahi means external. Arta means interest, and manima means taking very seriously. Generally speaking, practically everyone is unaware of the spiritual world. The knowledge of the materialist is restricted within the 4 billion mile limit of this material world, which is in the dark portion of the creation. They do not know that beyond the material world is the spiritual world. Unless one is a devotee of the Lord, one cannot understand the existence of the spiritual world. Gurus, teachers, who are simply interested in this material world are described in this verse as andha, blind. Such blind men may lead many other blind followers. Such blind men may lead many other blind followers without true knowledge of material conditions. But they are not accepted by devotees like Prahlad Maharaj. Such blind teachers, being interested in the external material world, are always bound by the strong ropes of material desire, of material nature. Such blind leaders, being interested in the external material world, are always bound by the strong ropes of material nature. 32 together. Naisham vatistavadarukram grim sprishartyanartha pagamo yadartaha mahiya sampararajo bhishekam niskinchananam navranita yavad niskinchananam navranita yavad niskinchananam navranita yavad. Unless they smear upon their bodies the dust of the lotus feet of a Vaishnav, completely freed from material contamination, persons very much inclined toward materialistic life cannot be attached to the lotus feet of the Lord, who is glorified for his uncommon activities. Only by becoming Krishna conscious and taking shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord in this way can one be freed from material contamination. Purport: becoming Krishna conscious brings about anartha apagamaha, the disappearance of all anarthas, the miserable conditions we have unnecessarily accepted. The material body is the basic principle of these unwanted miserable conditions. The entire Vedic civilization these unwanted miseries, but persons bound by the laws of nature do not know the destination of life. As described in the previous verse, Isha tantram urudam nibadha. They are conditioned by the 3 strong ropes of material nature. They are conditioned by the 3 strong modes of material nature. The education that keeps the conditioned soul bound life after life is called materialistic education. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has explained that materialistic education expands the influence of Maya. Such an education induces the conditioned soul to be increasingly attracted to materialistic life and to stray further and further away from liberation from unwanted miseries. One may ask why highly educated persons do not take to Krishna consciousness. The reason is explained in this verse. Unless one takes shelter of a bona fide, fully Krishna conscious spiritual master, there is no chance of understanding Krishna. The educators, scholars, and big political leaders worshipped by millions of people cannot understand the goal of life and take to Krishna consciousness, for they have not accepted a bona fide spiritual master in the Vedas. Therefore, in the Mundaka Upanishad, it is said, Nayamatma pravachanena labhyo na medhaya na bahuna shrutena. One cannot become self-realized simply by having an academic education, by presenting lectures in an erudite way, pravachanena labhya, or by being an intelligent scientist who discovers many wonderful things. One cannot understand Krishna unless one is graced by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Only one who has surrendered to a pure devotee of Krishna and taken the dust of his lotus feet can understand Krishna. First, one must understand how to get out of the clutches of Maya. The only means is to become Krishna conscious. And to become Krishna conscious very easily, one must take shelter of a realized soul, a Mahat or Mahatma, whose only interest is to engage in the service of the Supreme Lord. As the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 9:13, Mahatmanas tumam partha daivim prakritim ashritaha vajantyananya manaso gyatva bhutidim avyayam gyatva bhutidim avyayam gyatva bhutidim avyayam. O son of Vrita, those who are not deluded, the great souls, are under the protection of the divine nature. They are fully engaged in devotional service because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, original and inexhaustible. Therefore, to end the unwanted miseries of life, one must become a devotee. Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavati akinchana sarvar gunas tatra samasate sudha. One who has unflinching devotional faith in Krishna consistently manifests all the good qualities of Krishna and the demigods. The great overture of 5.18.12. Yasya devi para bhaktir yata devi tata garau tasyaite katita hyarta prakashante mahatmanaha prakashante mahatmanaha prakashante mahatmanaha. Only unto those great souls who have implicit faith in both the Lord and the spiritual master are all the imports of Vedic knowledge automatically revealed from the Shvetashvatara Upanishad. From which Upanishad? Correct. Yam evaisha vrinute te nalabhyas tashaisha atma vrinute tanum swam. The Lord is obtained only by one whom he himself chooses. To such a person he manifests his own form. From Mundaka Upanishad. Which Upanishad? Correct. These are Vedic injunctions. One must take shelter of a self-realized spiritual master, not a materially educated scholar or politician. One must take shelter of an askinchana, a person engaged in devotional service and free from material contamination. That is the way to return home, back to Godhead. 33. After Prahlad Maharaj had spoken in this way and become silent, Hiranyakashipu, blinded by anger, threw him off his lap and onto the ground. Call the police. Indignant and angry, his reddish eyes like molten copper, Hiranyakashipu said to his servants, O demons, take this boy away from me. He deserves to be killed. Kill him as soon as possible. 35. This boy Prahlad is the killer of my brother, for he has given up his family to engage in the devotional service of the enemy, Lord Vishnu, like a menial servant. Purport. Hiranyakashipu considered his son Prahlad Maharaj to be the killer of his brother because Prahlad Maharaj was engaged in the devotional service of Lord Vishnu. In other words, Prahlad Maharaj would be elevated to Sarupya liberation, and in that sense he resembled Lord Vishnu. Therefore Prahlad was to be killed by Hiranyakashipu. Devotees, Vaishnavas, attain the liberations of Sarupya, Salokya, Sarshti, and Samipya. Whereas the Mayavadis are supposed to attain the liberation known as Sayuja. Sayuja Mukti, however, is not very secure, whereas Sarupya Mukti, Salokya Mukti, Sarshti Mukti, and Samipya Mukti are most certain. Although the servants of Lord Vishnu, Narayana, in the Vaikuntha planets are equally situated with the Lord, the devotees there know very well that the Lord is the master, whereas they are servants. And that brings us to the cow break. We'll see you all back here at 15 minutes after 5. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.